Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, thanks for joining us. First tonight, the Premier continues to tour areas damaged by last week's floods, travelling to rural communities to check in on impacted families. It comes as the Bureau of Meteorology warns more wet weather is on the way, with us all urged to remain vigilant.
Overlooking the damage at the Archers family farm, the Premier inspecting the clean-up after last week's soaking.
Watching the water come up is pretty tough. It was about a metre over the top of all the crops.
With paddocks 3 to 4 metres underwater.
On another property, we lost a full pump shed and electrics with 4 pumps in it.
As well as damage to fencing, the family has also lost about 7,000 newly planted trees. The farmer feeling the pinch.
Pumps and electrics will be close to 80 grand. The crop, it depends, it may survive, it may not, or we may get patches out of it, that'll be hard to tell.
Part of their businesses, their cash flows literally washed away.
To look into their eyes and see that level of anxiety and that fear because they just don't know what's coming.
But the Premier promises additional help is on the way.
Soon we'll be announcing some initial support in combination with the federal government, some immediate cash assistance, and then grants of up to $25,000 will be available upon assessment.
It is great knowing that once it's all over, you're not just forgotten and people are there for you. So it's really good to, and I think farmers tend to say no to help and want to do it themselves.
And it's just really important that people know that there is a tribe around them. There is people there for them.
Especially with more wet weather on the way.
The rainfall we're expecting on Friday night and during Saturday is nowhere near as significant as what we saw last week. However, with those saturated soils, we are expecting to see those rivers respond quite rapidly.
A prolonged period of wet weather expected to extend into next week.
The message to Tasmanians is always be vigilant.
Forcing farmers to remain on high alert.
We'll flood down here again if it comes down the South Esk, but we're hoping for nowhere near as much rain as last week.
Hopeful the recovery can continue despite uncertain days and weeks ahead. McKenna Bailey, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmanian taxpayers will be forking out more than $1 million on advertising to spruik the state government's climate targets. The government has defended the contract, despite it being labelled as an abuse of public funds.
The Tasmanian government has lofty climate goals, and they're spending more than $1 million on advertising to let us know. State Growth have awarded Tasmanian PR firm The 20 a contract to build greater awareness and understanding of Tasmania's renewable energy and climate change targets.
And what is important is that we take our community with us on this journey.
Earlier this month, the Grattan Institute released a report on political overtones in government advertising. It found a quarter of federal government spend was merely spruiking its own policies or performance. Tasmania couldn't be included in the report because we have such lax laws. At the time, the government rebuked calls for adopting any oversight.
We provide public education and information, but we do not spend money on political advertising in Tasmania.
The report authors say this climate campaign appears to be the type of misuse of public funds they're talking about. There's no specific call to action, it's just spruiking government policy.
Taxpayers should not be footing the bill for political messages. It's a waste of public money, it undermines trust in important government messaging, and it also creates an uneven playing field in elections.
It's important that we share information like our renewable energy and climate change and indeed Marinus Link.
The Greens say the case is as strong as ever for legislation to examine government advertising.
Well, using $1.1 million of taxpayers' money to puff up the Liberal Party's agenda is an abuse of money.
Tassie's transparency troubles continue. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
Dodgers Ferry Primary School has been left with a damage bill of close to $40,000 after a classroom entryway was set on fire this afternoon. No structural damage has occurred to the building, but it has resulted in a small amount of charring. Police believe a group was seen fleeing from the area following the incident and are investigating. AFL boss Gil McLachlan says club presidents are giving Tasmania's AFL bid positive feedback, but he's acknowledged there is a gap in funding for a new stadium.
Yeah, I welcome some comments the last days that the federal government could see some merit in it, but it would depend on the detail.
State Labor has campaigned against the stadium, but despite that, last night in State Parliament, Labor voted against a Greens motion asking them to formally lobby their federal colleagues not to fund it.
We talk with our federal colleagues all the time, but we don't talk with our federal colleagues with writing instructions from the Tasmanian Greens in the State Parliament.
The Liberals, Greens and Independent Christy Johnston have labelled Labor weak over the backflip. Southern Tasmanians put the public holiday to good use, pouring into Hobart for the first day of the Royal Show. Dagwood dogs, roller coasters and an array of animals, just some of the attractions drawing them in.
A sea of smiling faces, thrilled to be revelling without restrictions.
We've had a really strong gate so far due to the fantastic weather that Hobart's put on for the first day of the show, so we're expecting about 20 to 25,000 people today.
The Royal Hobart Show looking a little different this year, with events scattered across 5 locations. We have our arts and crafts displays down at City Hall. We've got our beef cattle competition out at Hobart Showground, and we've got our equestrian competition at the Cull Valley Equestrian Centre. But there was no shortage of colour and fun. The sideshow alley a hit with the little ones, as well as small-scale activities to get their blood pumping. A jetpack display was a fun new feature this year. Meanwhile, Tasmania's old but gold agriculture attractions were back for those moving at a slower pace. Crowds also treating themselves to some tasty show classics as lunchtime approached.
I'm just here with my friends and we're just getting some hot food and a drink and we're having lots of fun here.
I've been helping all the kids eat their fairy floss. I'm very good at eating fairy floss. I've had a few Dagwood dogs too.
But for those with stronger stomachs, it was straight to the sky.
She was screaming her head off, but it was really fun. It was like amazing, the best ride I've ever been on.
These rides might look innocent, but it's probably best to save the Dagwood dogs and fairy floss till after you've unstrapped.
Parents guaranteed to have no problems putting their children to sleep tonight.
The kids having fun here, and so much, so much excitement for them. We only get to do this once a year, so it's great.
And the queues for show bags saw no signs of slowing. Attendees eager to take a piece of the fun home when the day is done. Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
Athletes have left it all on the field on the penultimate day of the Special Olympics in Launceston. Players, spectators and organisers coming together to celebrate inclusion, but some say they've been sidelined from the action.
Athletes sweating it out on the track at a very important kind of games. The Special Olympics returning to Launceston for the first time since the city hosted the inaugural national event way back in 1986.
I'm playing at home in my home state. It's great. I have so many family and friends here in Tasmania.
Crowds packing in to watch Tasmania's 10-pin bowling team go up against interstate rivals. The island state's 19-person delegation holding its own in the competition across 9 sports.
We've got a lot of medals and Daniel's got some ribbons as well, so it's really exciting just to see their happy faces.
An army of more than 600 volunteers making the event possible.
They're high-fiving, they're smiling, they're cheering, they're looking after one another. It's just been a wonderful celebration of sport and of inclusion for people with intellectual disability.
But elsewhere, the cheers were more muted. Spectators kept out of the thick of it at Elfin's basketball courts. Supporters forced to cheer from on high. The issue being blamed on the facility.
They've still been able to see, but unfortunately it means that we've had to rotate games and take turns on who can be on court 1, court 2, court 3.
Dustin Heneo travelled to Launceston from Victoria to support his basketballer brother.
Just a shame someone up there has made a decision to not let our supporters be close to the athletes.
Claiming there's enough room for everyone in the stands.
He'll try give me the thumbs up through the window, but it's just not the same.
Competition winds up tomorrow. Annie Green, 7 Tasmania News.
The state government is being accused of undermining a much-loved alternative education provider in the state's north. Labor says trades qualified staff at Student Works are being told to reapply for their own jobs.
The world has changed and Student Works needs to change with it. The board has agreed with that, supported that, and we are now embarked on a new pathway forward.
So now they're saying that they've fixed it. They're saying that they're going to keep it, but we will have the name Student Works, but that's pretty much all we'll have.
The institution first opened in 1978. A bill banning some single-use plastics in Tasmania will be introduced by the Greens next week. The legislation would initially focus on straws, stirrers, plates, bowls and cutlery.
We believe it would be widely supported by Tasmanians. It wouldn't come into force for a year, and it gives time for businesses to get supported and to change what they're providing.
Environment Minister Roger Yench says there is already a commitment to phase out single-use plastics across the state by 2025 and even earlier in government and council facilities. The Office of Racing Integrity is investigating 2 horse trainers for animal welfare incidents. Independent MP Christy Johnston says urgent action is needed to address accusations a trainer whipped a horse 43 times in a sandpit at Sprayton and another who beat a horse with a PVC pipe at Brighton. Both incidents were allegedly caught on CCTV.
It is not good enough that these trainers can continue to have horses in their care when they clearly do not care about the welfare of their horses and are willing to beat their horses.
Racing Minister Madeleine Ogilvie was unable to provide details about the incidents when asked in question time today. And aspiring young cricketers have spent the day learning the tricks of the trade from some of the world's best in the game. Fresh off their stunning comeback win against Scotland in the ICC Men's T20 World Cup, Ireland's top talent was embracing the grassroots in Kingston, with a number of juniors turning out to the clinic.
Establishing connection between grassroots and elite levels is key. I think the sooner you do that and the sooner these guys can grow up seeing and having a little bit of contact time with guys playing international cricket, then you then might inspire the next guy or the next girl.
The Irish team has kept its hopes alive of progressing at the World Cup, preparing to face off against the West Indies tomorrow night. Despite that record rain falling over parts of the state last week, Tasmanians are being urged to turn off the taps tonight to conserve water. This year's Water Night encourages households to avoid non-essential water use. It started at 5 and runs until 10 p.m. It's hoped the initiative, now in its 3rd year, will increase water awareness, especially after flooding events, which put extra pressure on supply by churning up sediment. New research has lifted the lid on the devastating impact the rising cost of living is placing on Tasmania's most vulnerable. Launceston students are doing their bit to give back to those struggling as the problem escalates in the community.
Obtaining a basic standard of living is becoming increasingly out of reach.
If we don't do something about this issue now, I'm afraid it's going to escalate, and I don't want to look back and be like, I could have done something.
St Patrick's College students are learning about the harsh realities of living on the streets, participating in a program which helps deliver soup to the state's Vinnie's van.
That bowl of soup, not only does it provide the meal and the nutritional value to individuals, it also is a starting point to open the conversation for potential further assistance.
Marking an important milestone in Anti-Poverty Week, 1,000 litres of soup dished out.
Certainly an issue that should be brought up a bit more, especially in my age group, because it's not often talked about.
New Uniting Vic TAS research has laid bare just how bad the situation has become, showing Tasmanians were 25% more likely to experience impacts on their housing situation than their Victorian counterparts.
We have people now that have actually had homes and they've now in situations where they're being evicted from those homes or they can't afford those homes.
There are currently more than 37,000 people across our state relying on income support, as low as $48 a day for an adult, leaving some with no option but to make an impossible choice between everyday essentials.
We've had groups of people that we've not seen before that are actually falling into those categories.
These teenagers playing their role in addressing the crisis in a hope to remove stigma.
I want to make a difference and I want to make our future better for all within our community.
Thank you. Grace Evans, 7 Tasmania News.
And Hurricanes interim coach Dan Marsh will leave his WBBL gig at the end of the season, having been appointed as an assistant coach for the Australian women's team. Marsh will face a Women's World Cup and a Women's Ashes series during the first 6 months.
I'll always preach an attacking style of cricket as well, whether that's with a bat or the ball. But yeah, I think the most important thing for me is going to be to build those relationships or build on the relationships I've already.
Return to Tasmania after winning 2 of their first 3 games. They have a short break before travelling to Perth to face the Scorchers on Sunday. Meanwhile, in Hobart last night, the West Indies lost 4 for 11 in the middle overs against Zimbabwe, but recovered to post 7 for 153.
My gosh! 150 is up. Can you give 12s at some point? Here's Akilo saying, look at that.
The West Indies keeping their T20 World Cup hopes alive, finishing on top by 31 runs with 10 balls left to spare.
Good evening. It was a glorious sunny day for most of Tasmania today, although cloud did increase a little during the afternoon about parts of the north and south. The maximum temperature was 24 in Launceston and Luncheon Hill, Hobart 16, Burnie 17 and 18 in Devonport. Strahan 22 today, 21 at King Island and Ouse, Lyowini warming up with 20 after a 0-degree start, 19 at Grove and the Friendly Beaches, also Flinders Island, Lowhead and St Helens both 17 and Maria Island 16. On the satellite picture, we can see that patchy cloud about the north and far south and clear skies across the remainder of the state. A large area of cloud with scattered thunderstorms is encompassing much of eastern Australia and parts of tropical north. A little cloud is moving southwest over WA, while the rest of the country is mostly clear. A northerly airstream develops tomorrow over Tasmania as a trough approaches from the west. Several troughs and a weak low pressure system are affecting much of the mainland. East to northeasterly winds 15 to 25 knots, reaching 30 knots about parts of the north and the southeast. Seas 1 to 2 metres, reaching 3 metres in the northwest. There is a strong wind warning for the far northwest coast, the east of Flinders Island and the southeast coast tomorrow. Also a flood watch for the northwest, the north and the northeast, as well as Derwent catchments. Late showers tomorrow in Hobart 24, 26 at Huonville, showers there. Showers also at Campania 24. Showers across the north tomorrow 22 degrees in Launceston, 18 at Devonport and Georgetown 19. Showers forecast for the west also tomorrow, 17 in Burnie and Wynyard and Strahan 23. And showers for the east as well, meaning showers across the whole state tomorrow, 18 in St Helens, 19 in Swansea and 20 at Port Arthur. A high UV of 7 and the sun is going down at 7:39 p.m. Saturday, those showers continue throughout the state with isolated thunderstorms about eastern and central areas. Showers statewide on Sunday, easing during the evening, and Monday showers with possible heavy falls in the east. Showers increasing in Perth tomorrow 22, Adelaide partly cloudy 23 and showers for Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane 24. And right now in Hobart, it's 13, partly cloudy, Launceston mostly clear 18 and Devonport mostly clear also 14. A good idea to pack your umbrella tomorrow if you're heading out, Kim.
Too right. Thank you very much, Carmen. Well, before we leave you tonight, Launceston Council has been left with a flood debris mystery. A set of initials reading MB and AA carved into this 30-metre tree washed onto the lawn at First Basin after last week's flooding. So if you're missing a tree or know MB or AA, please contact the council. And that is all your news for now. Good night.